So let's talk about interracial relationships. What do you think about interracial relationships?
I love them.
You love them because you're in one, or do you think we're considered an interracial relationship?
Well, let's start in the first place. I'm Spanish,
I'm black.
so I think in that situation, anything that's not of the similar race that you're from, I think could be considered as interracial race.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times people don't consider black and Spanish relationships as interracial because we grew up like doing the same things, we're from the same neighborhoods, we live the same life, so they don't really consider. But I think for us, there's a sort of a difference. I think you have a very strong Spanish background. Even though I'm black, I wasn't born here. I'm from the Caribbean, so there's a difference. I think there's a huge difference between Black Americans and Black West Indians.
Right. That's a whole topic in itself to talk about the difference between, like for example, a Spanish person who's born raised here, or a black person born and raised here versus a person who was born and raised in a different country. That's a completely more. That's even a bigger subset of like how interracial are you. But I think just to keep it simple, like, if they don't look like you, or if they don't speak like you, they probably are not similar to you.
I mean, right, that's one point. But to the argument of that people don't think blacks and Spanish are that much difference. Like if you're in a relationship where one person is Spanish, one person is black, they just feel like, well, you grew up in the same neighborhood, you're from the same place, our generation. So that means, hey, you're pretty similar. There's nothing interracial. There's nothing different as in comparison to like a black and white relationship. Completely different spectrum, right?
Right. I mean, I think in general, like, it's pretty complicated how it can go from being, and I think that's what makes interracial relationships difficult, because if you don't know the complexity, you can very quickly find out that the person you're dating is not who you think they were, based on that complex. And it might make a lot of the relationship things very difficult, like, marriage and everything else that comes along with it. So it is very complicated, and we advise everyone to, really get the time to know your person, specifically if they're not of your race. Ask questions and talk about everything you possibly can.
I mean, I agree to that. I do also think that we are interracial relationship. What we have is an interracial relationship,
right.
Just based on our opinions, our families, the way we do things, the whole package. There's a difference,
right? Yeah, I think I would also consider us being in interracial relationships. When we first came across certain experiences in our relationship, we always had to come from a different perspective and how we was raised and how we was brought up. So it was definitely different.
I think that's one of the main differences, or one of the things we always have a conversation about, or one of the things that always come up as, posing an issue, right? Especially with our parents, our families. When it comes to the decisions we make or how we act or whatever, a huge part of it is our families. And that's where you can see the distinction greatly.
Right. So I have to ask you, since, we're talking about this, do you like being in an interracial relationship?
Yeah, I do. I like the spiciness. I like the difference in the culture. It's difficult, but I welcome it, because I've always said to myself, I never want to really be with someone from my culture, even though we would share a lot of similarities.
What makes you attractive to someone of a different race?
I don't know if I want to say exactly it's like someone of a different race that I find attractive, or in you. This might sound shallow, but I like light-skinned guys. So, I don't know. I've always just been attracted to that.
So, but what about males who are may be considered black but of light skin tones.
Yeah, there's an attraction there, but I've always said, like, I don't want to date a Caribbean guy because it comes with a lot. Growing up in that culture, I see what it looks like, and I just felt like, it wasn't really for me, Not that I want to bash the culture or anything like that. It's just I recognize that it wasn't something that I would want to. I see myself long term wanting to have. Not really trying to sound shallow though. It sounds very shallow.
You sound very shallow.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to be. It's just you like what
it's
you like.
Yeah, it's your preference. And I mean, everyone in this earth has some kind of preference, and you have to own up to it and accept that about yourself. That these are the things that you like. These are the things that turn your buttons on, and that's how you have to move forward.
What about you? What do you like about being in an interracial relationship? Where did it come from for you? Did you always know that that's something you wanted? What's the backstory?
So for me, as far as I've known, I've always been attracted to females of a darker tone. And that can be black, West Indian, etc.
Is that also like dark-skinned Spanish women, or is it
with the exception of black skin Spanish, and the reason for that is because and the reason for that is because I was brought up in a Spanish household, so I know everything that I think I need to know about a Spanish woman, and personally I don't really like it. So even if I was to come across a dark skinned female, the moment they open their mouth and who's Spanish and open their mouth, and I start seeing, let's say for example, my mother, I tend to just run away. So that's part of the reason why I fell into this area of like dating African American females, West Indians, Haitians, whoever has dark skin in their cultures typically is what I came across in my youth. And it's always been like that. And I mean, I've dated light-skinned Spanish girls, and it's never really been.
And what about light-skinned black girls?
I've dated them. Is
there an attraction there? So for you, is it just the idea of being with a black woman, or is it the skin tone?
I think it's a little bit of both. The knowledge of being with a black skin female, it's somewhat attractive to me. Whether it is the way the skin, reflects over sunlight, or the way it looks when it's lotioned.
And how dark are we talking? Like,
that's a hard question, because it's like you never know. It depends on how the person wears it. It's kind of hard to really describe that. Like, how brown do you need to be? Like, it's kind of really hard. It's like, I don't know. If it carries well, if it looks good, I mean, I think it's fine with me.
Mm-hmm. But not to sound racist or anything. This is not the point of this. It's just to say what your preference is and what you found to be attractive to you with dating.
Well, for me personally,
female or black female,
I think it's been mostly medium to the darker tones.
Mm-hmm.
Have been, I think, the ones that I've gravitated to most.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's pretty much how it's happened. And I think I would consider you like medium tone. So I would.
What do you like the most about being in an interracial relationship?
It's interesting. It's just every day, every interaction is something that you either are not born with, you don't know what's about to happen, and you can always expect something different from whatever your interaction with the person is. I'm generally interested in learning about other people, so being in a relationship with a person who's may have been brought up differently, knows different things, different foods, everything about them, it might be a lot different than me. Learning with them and kind of like finding that balance and that middle ground for me is like the most important thing.
Okay. I think I said a little bit already what I like about.
Right.
Well, no, did I say what I like about being in an interracial relationship, or just I don't know. It's something different, I guess. Like I said, in dating people from my own culture, black culture or West Indian culture, you know, you're used to the same, you know what to expect. There is a huge difference in dealing with a Spanish guy. With us, it's not a big difference. It's only noticeable like when you get around family, because you're pretty much like black too, right? Because you kind of grew up in that environment as well,
right?
So we can listen to the same music, we can enjoy most of the same foods and things like that. But the times when you notice something different is especially like around family, and then that just throws a whole monkey wrench into the whole thing, right? And then you really get exposed to the culture, and you really get something different. And you know, because every now and then I attend a party and I like to listen to the music. You know, after a while it might get a little bit too overwhelming, but something different food, different people, different music, different everything. So it's like.
So I want to talk a little bit about, like, have you dated someone of similar race to you? Mm-hmm. And what would you consider like the differences? And I want to be very specific in this as far as like what made you decide, okay, I don't want to date, let's just say, black men, and then shift over to like, oh, let me date a Spanish man. And every qualities that come along with that. And please be as detailed as you want.
I think that I always saw more of the same kind of attitude when it came to the guys that I dated or dealt with.
Tell me more.
The just the dishonesty, the always having to, you know, run circles just to get an answer, or just not being sure about the level of commitment in the relationship.
What about how good they're in the bed?
I mean, I don't know what to say about that. Is there a different? Everyone comes with their own best qualities when it comes to that. I can't say, you know, that they're so much better in bed. No, because there's so many, as you age, you know, there's so many different things you look at. And back then, when the guys that I was, you know, I would talk to or dated, I was young. So there's nothing really you can grasp and say, yeah, this is what I would always look for in a guy. Not really. Until now, when I could really recognize, well, what certain things mean, what to look for in a guy. To me, now it's more real. And since we've been together for so long,
that's a different topic for a different day.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest, that's not the answer I was looking for. Okay. I was looking for more like, you're the best I've ever heard, but we'll digress. Well, will have, everything in between. But what other major differences that you noticed between like dating, like for me, for example, dating a Spanish girl versus dating a black girl is, for me, the level of defiance. So I can talk to a Spanish girl in certain manners and
can you? Because
I've noticed it. I mean, I've noticed it. The level of aggression and defiance between a black female and a Spanish female is different, and you receive it differently, and you are threatened in different manner. Like arguments that we've had, I feel genuinely threatened physically by you, just by a mere voice, just saying, I will, do something to you, or I will fuck you up.
Like I'm so horrible. I'm so abusive.
No, you're not. You're beautiful. You're kind and everything. But
that's not also to say that black females are so aggressive, because I hate this idea that.
Well, the females I've dated, it's partly because I like females who are self-sufficient. They are very, don't take no shit for no man.
So that's a different thing than saying, because it makes you sound like you're an aggressor. Like you're just, always trying to be the boss, or just always trying to, treat you like a little kid, and my way is the right way. And
but that's, if someone's attracted to that kind of personality, then that tends to be the person who they meet. And
I guess, but I don't want to put out this idea that black females are aggressive and we have our attitudes. And
I mean
we are strong, because there's a lot of stuff you have to put up with, and when you're brought up in a certain household that teaches you not to take any shit, that's you'll find that. But at the same time, people will feel like we're just looked at as the aggressor, just so difficult to deal with, and we have attitudes, and we're just
well, and the other side of the fence, it's Spanish males. Spanish males are supposed to be very, very manly. We're supposed to be able to do,
well, they're more so looked at as loving and tender and kind and sweet.
I mean, it depends, but again, it depends who you talk to, and depends who even within the racial stereotypes, there's a range of differences that you may come across. Not every black female is aggressive.
Yeah,
not every black
like that
male
idea
is dangerous.
I don't like that idea of putting specific labels based on the stereotypes you've heard about what you would encounter with a black female or a Spanish male. One size really does not always fit. It really doesn't. So you might come across somebody who's just, people change over time. So many environmental aspects, your cultural aspects, all of those things that play a part to shape who you are. So what you may know about Spanish people is not what you'll always find with every Spanish person you come across. Right. It wouldn't be fair to make that kind of assumption, right? So again, even though that I would think, hey, Spanish guys are soft and tender, and you get some of that sometimes, right? From you, you're loving, you're not this aggressive, you don't display this aggressive kind of behavior unless like something that will trigger you getting upset, which is kind of like a turn on sometimes, right? Like when you get really angry, and if you ever notice, like I push the buttons a little bit, and then it's kind of like when you see you in that light raging, it's like a raging bull going through a glass store.
But is that more of sexual tension, or is that more related to the interracial differences? I'm wondering. Like, for example, like, are you pushing my buttons because you want to see my specific anger that just me as a male? Because I show more strength, I show more physical aggression. Yeah, I don't think
it has much to do with the culture. I mean, you could probably tie
or like if I get mad, I just start talking Spanish and be like, "Mina cabrona, que yo no sé."
Maybe something like that. I mean, every little difference you may come across will kind of like, make the throw everything out of equilibrium, right? And so for me, that's kind of exciting, right? When everything doesn't remain the same, you get a little something different, and then for the time that we've been together,
So let me ask you a question. In dating me, we've said before, and if you definitely, guys, if you want to find out a little bit more about us, check out our webpage. There's a whole bio on us and details about us, and any questions you may ask, feel free to send us a message and we will try to facilitate that.
We'll try, but nothing too kinky and nothing too disrespectful, because you will get dealt with.
And no nudes.
Or maybe nudes. Who knows?
So just to shift off a little bit, I want to ask you about family conflicts and interaction between my family members and vice versa. So what have been one noticeable conflict that you've noticed that you've been consistently dealing with? And
I mean, to nail it on one, that's kind of hard, right? There's so many.
Just highlight one.
There's so many instances where you want to think it's because of the differences in cultures, in maybe dealing with your parents, certain expectations that each side would have for that person, for their child. I try to look at it as if it's more so just parents wanting the best for their kids, or is it really because of the cultural upbringing? And it probably has a little bit to do with both, right? Because whatever you want for your kids is based on what you yourself might have went through the opposite, and then you just want better for them. So these are the certain things you look for and think that other person should bring to the equation. There's a lot of times when there's certain things that, you know, your parents might ask of me, and at that time I'm just thinking like, well, why would I be the one to do that? Like, for example, if coming over to your house when you hadn't moved out as yet, you know, this expectation that if I see your clothes, you know, drying, if I see that it's dry, then I should just pick it up and put it away. And it's like, I get all of that, you know, I can understand helping out, but why isn't it, I always thought, why do I always have to be the one in the direct crosshair of that idea that I have to be the one to pick it up? Why don't you ever ask the person who the socks belong to or who the clothes belong to pick it up? That's his responsibility. So I always felt like, you know, it was so unreasonable because it was every time. It's like I was expected to pick up after you.
Right, because like, that's looked upon as a responsibility of a female in a Spanish culture to kind of like pick up after the male and just care for the male in that aspect. And whether or not that's true or not, you know, that's based on the individual's family, individual's belief system. I personally never believed in that. And I've told my mother plenty of times, it was like, you know, I'm just being lazy myself. I just don't want to put it away yet. And I'll do it when I want to.
Yeah.
And you
that's
know,
that was a huge emotion to always carry around, in being not attacked, but being, you know, in focus in that regard, that this is what you're supposed to do. If you see this and, you know, pick it up. And I get all of that, you know, just if you're in some place, you see it, but I'm not going to be picking up after somebody who don't even want to do it themselves. I mean, who's going to help me with my shit? That's how I always felt too. There's a time and place for everything, right? So you need a little help with something, cool. But that expectation all the time is like, everyone has their role to play. Everyone has to bring something to the team. And, you know, that's the only way we can all really get along. I mean, I'm sure you have similar feelings in regards to the expectations from my parents.
There's only two noticeable conflicts I've came across that's really been a struggle for me. Mm-hmm. The first one is the most apparent one, and that's the language barrier. And you would think that would be a difficulty for you because my parents speak Spanish, but for me, your parents speak English,
right?
But they have heavy accents, and
so is it really like a language barrier?
I mean, I'll consider it a language barrier because it's just the accent of the West Indian culture. It's for me, it's very hard for me to understand, and oftentimes I'm being talked to, and I have no idea they're talking to me. And oftentimes in a space in which I should be interacting with your family.
A lot of times you're like in your own fucking world,
and but partly
you never realize that.
But partly because it's
talking to you.
But partly because I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on, so I tend to zone out because it's like I can't contribute in any fashion way because I don't understand what the language is. I don't know what kind of jokes are being said. I don't know like the context of the conversation.
About you, probably.
Right, and it probably is like, oh, talking about me. Like, it's oftentimes that you guys joke about me, about my choice in foods and preferences and you know, maybe my flatulence or whatever. And then all of a sudden I'm there standing with a smile, like, because I don't know, I have no idea what.
Just nod and smile. It always works.
And, you know, I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't want to be rude. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and smile and kind of just like, you know, whatever. The other has been the expectation of your father. Me and your father would get along well. but I've never dealt and dated a woman who have such a father heavily involved and have certain expectations. Like sending the letter, introducing.
Well, that's a cultural
right, and that's
thing.
then that's the and that comes.
And I'm not so sure. So a little bit of backstory was that, in our culture, if you want to come visit
what's your culture?
I'm Guyanese from Guyana, South America, not Ghana in Africa. Just have to make that a distinction. A lot of times people think I'm talking about Ghana, but no, Guyana, South America. In our culture, when you want to visit the female at her home, you come to the father, you write a letter, you speak to the dad, and you say, hey, I'm interested in your daughter. I want permission to come visit the home, which I think is not like so crazy. I'm sure other cultures do the same thing too. It's like, but you have your different ways in which what that looks like. I just always felt like it was just something so extra, like,
I personally didn't know how to do it. Like, I was just like, how do I even say, hey, sir, I'm interested in boinking your daughter. Can I come over and kind of like court her? Like, it
just felt weird to me. I don't know about you, but it just felt weird to me because, and the reason why it felt weird to me is not to say that that's not just normal courting, right? That you're interested in somebody, you let that person's family know that you're interested and what that would look like. But I guess it's because I don't know if my dad really had an issue with it. It was more like my mom had an issue. She was just putting that out there to say, this is what you should do. And then hearing it from her.
This was requested like years into us dating and me visiting. And it was almost like, after 4 years of me visiting and being by and coming by.
Well, I think it was more so like they finally realized, because it was more than just visiting. It was like being at the house, staying over, and not just you come to visit, sleeping over. Yeah. So not that you just come to visit and that's it. And
I think they thought I was gay. Maybe that was just a gay friend. I was like kind of like, this guy that just comes around and kind of hangs out with you.
Well, it was hard. I think in the beginning for my dad, he doesn't want to see his baby girl being taken away by some guy. He kind of makes reference to it now in a joking manner, so he's come to terms with it. But even with us like going to Long Island to go shopping or whatever, and if I got too close to you, like he did not want to see that. I remember him putting his hand in the back seat and hitting my leg to tell me like move over. And at one point I was kind of ashamed to show any kind of affection or even touch your hand or do anything like that, because I always felt like they were looking and they didn't like that, And of course, he doesn't want to see his baby girl being taken by some guy. Or not some guy, but a guy or whatever.
Right.
That's a hard thing to deal with as a father, I suppose. But I think slowly he started coming to terms, because I remember one time he had seen a friend when we went out shopping, and he referred to you as my my boyfriend. So when I heard that, I recognized like, okay, he's come to terms. And then so at a certain point, it just seemed like it was routine. It was normal. Right. So I didn't think that at this stage we had to do the courting thing. Even though I'm from that culture, I didn't grow up to see that happen to my brothers, or see my brothers doing it, or see it happen to my sister. So I don't know what that looks like really. And our generation, we're not like that, And maybe I try to think about it if I had my own kids, what I would want that to look like. I
definitely would. I mean, it's out of just respect of,
So then you
not the letter thing, but at least, hey, listen, and I think that's a more of an expectation on my daughter, not the expectation of the guy.
Why would it be an expectation of?
Because I would expect my daughter to know that, listen, I gotta introduce this man that I'm dating to me.
Did I never do that? Did I never introduce?
I think you never did. I don't think you ever introduced me as your boyfriend, and this is my boyfriend. Can he come over? It was more of just like, this is the guy that comes over, like, just ignore him. He's just gonna work on the pipes, and put up this TV for me. stuff like that. Yeah, so it was never like really introduced. So that would be more of an expectation on my daughter that I would have, like for her to be respectful towards me.
I think the ideal thing maybe might be to like you said, if it was both people involved, to say, hey, we're dating and whatever, maybe they would have liked that, or now that I think back at it. But at the time and looking into it, I didn't really see what the importance was. I didn't really think about it in depth. But
so what now? So here we are. We've been dating for quite a while. We've experienced lots of different things. We've been through a lot of different things, as far as experiencing each other's cultures, experiencing each other's expectations, our parents' expectations, and as you reflect back upon, like, okay, everything that we've gone through, and we're still going through it, because let's not confuse the listeners. This is still a learning process, even though we've been dating for quite a while,
a long time.
We still are not nowhere near close to like really getting a good grip on everything that our expectations are. We still run into issues. We still argue. We still don't talk for a couple of hours.
A couple of minutes maybe. Never lasts that long.
Only because there's certain necessities as a relationship that you need to always constantly communicate one way or the other, regardless of how mad you are to the other person. Like, it's just you have to. But moving forward, what are some things that you probably like want to like continue to look forward to, change, and stuff like that?
I'm looking forward to having kids.
That's gonna be crazy.
The clash of cultures is gonna be really interesting, because I would love my kids to have a good grasp and a good understanding of both cultures. I want them to be Caribbean. I want them to enjoy and also welcome the Spanish culture, and speak Spanish and be able to.
In your opinion, do you think that's possible for a child to be both simultaneously West Indian and that for example, Spanish? Like, is that possible?
I mean, we're kind of living it, right?
But see, I'm only Spanish.
You're only Spanish, but us being together, you experience my culture. You already know your culture, you experience my culture, and then vice versa for me too. So, it would take us to play that part. We're both the representations of the one unit we would try to have.
I think the one with the biggest personality and emphasis on the culture
I could see
may
how
eventually take over.
But with a relationship, there needs to be fairness, right? So I think I know where you're going with this one, right? That me being the stronger, most opinionated one,
and the mother
and the mom would want my kids to absorb my culture more. But no, I want them to be versatile in every way that they can. I want them to know both cultures. I want them to be
So, I mean, every time we go on a car ride, the first thing you do is to put in West Indian music.
Yes.
Like, I have zero control over the radio at any given point in time, regardless if I'm driving or not.
Right.
And I think for most listeners, they probably listening to this like, wow, this guy's a pushover. But that's the liberty that I've given, that we've kind of worked out. That we're like, okay, you're gonna be the DJ.
I love listening to music that bangs in the car. Right. I like the bass. I like the that feeling you get when you listen to some reggae,
right? And in my case, I don't really get that feeling every time, so I don't really care as much. So,
and we do listen to Spanish music too, because I put on
one song,
a lot of, well, it gotta be a poppin' song, right? You don't even listen to salsa, you don't listen to bachata and things like that. But if the song has a good beat, I'll download it and play it too.
You have been.
I have like a little playlist.
You have been some considerate about that.
Yeah.
But you're choice of songs are very concentrated on West Indian. So for every 10 songs of West
Wow.
Indian culture you'll have like one Spanish song that you play.
It's about the beat, man. If the beat bangs, then that's what we're
I mean,
gonna-
okay, we could argue a day about, quality of music, but it's the exposure to my culture that
Yeah.
I feel is going to be
But
a
I
challenge.
think most of that would not be just through the music. It would be the family, incorporating the outer family members.
So you're saying that I can take my child to my mom's house and leave him there for a weekend? So my mom can culture them in
so
everything
as long
Spanish.
as, or like when any one of your kids would go anywhere, you want to make sure that they're good wherever they're gonna go, because your kids come with a little bit of you and a little bit of the other person, right? So they're gonna have their particular shit about them wherever they go. So it would be fine. I would just need to make sure that they're good. And what that looks like is that, they're comfortable where they are. There'll be no issues. It wouldn't put anybody out of their way. Maybe I say it now because I'm just thinking about, being protective and whatever. But maybe I'll be so tired. I just want them to go. Just go have fun. Go over there and just not really care about all that. But,
I know moving forward, like as far as your culture is concerned, I think I have absorbed a lot of your culture, because I went from not knowing jack shit that's being said in some of the songs to at least recognizing some of the songs and be like, okay, I know this song, I know this melody, I know this, this.
I know
this
that
word.
he wants to have sex with the girl. Yeah, that's what he's saying.
It's all about the coochie and the rubbing and the pumping and all that stuff. So I know that. So I know all of that now. And even some of them songs that come on, I kind of enjoy them. But that's has been me adapting to your preferences and your culture. Do you feel that you have done that for me as far as my Spanish culture, my everything that includes to Spanish culture?
Yeah, I would say that I have, in what capacity I can.
I remember for a while you wanted to learn Spanish, and you wanted me to speak to you in complete Spanish so you can kind of like get.
It's not like I don't know Spanish.
Well,
right?
Are you fluent? Would you consider yourself
I'm
fluent?
definitely not fluent.
Okay.
I can read. I can write.
Right.
Better than you.
Read and write better than me.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, maybe write, because the way I would write is like the way they teach you in the textbook, right? And the way I might try to speak is the way they teach you textbook wise.
Well, let's focus on effective communication. It's not about, whether or not you can write grammatically good or speak grammatically good, but can you be an effective communicator? And if you get dropped off in the middle of a Spanish country, would you be able to at least find the nearest police station? Or
I would say yes.
Okay.
I would say yes to that. Am I fluent in Spanish? No, not really. Not really. Sometimes it'll come and I won't think about it, and it could just maybe roll off. Like I remember I spoke to your aunt and she looked at me like, "Oh, you know how to tell me to get out the bathroom so you could use it?" So some things will come naturally, and then when I think about it too much, it's like, "Oh, wait, am I saying this the right way? Is this the way you pronounce the word?" And then,
So you feel like you just sound stupid when you talk.
Yeah, because I don't feel like I'm doing it right, and I'm thinking too hard about it.
Right. Okay. So it's a level of confidence that goes along with it.
Right. But you never answered what you look forward to in continuing to be in an interracial relationship. Not just a relationship, but particularly what we've considered is an interracial relationship.
That's a hard question to answer for me, because I feel like I've gotten everything up already. Like, as far as like waiting for kids, yeah, I mean that's cool. But as far as what I want in an interracial relationship, I think I've gotten everything so far. Like, I'm not really looking for anything else because I'm already pretty much happy with what I have.
Do you think that it would ever get to a point where you don't want to be with or in an interracial relationship, and you want to just go back to, Even though since you've started dating, it was always
right. I mean,
but do you think you'll ever get to the point where you want to go back to the culture or try a different culture?
That's really a hard question because I've never had a great affinity to my culture. Like, I know a lot of the Spanish songs, salsa, merengue, bachata, but you're not like, if they come on the radio, I'm not gonna jump off my seat and try to go dance them. And I'm just not. I'm more Americanized. I'm more, hip hop oriented.
Regular.
So I'm not. So I have cousins who are really ingrained, who are similar ages, who are very engraved in the Spanish culture, and they date Spanish women because that's what they know.
Right.
That's the culture they hang out. That's the clubs they go to. Am I gonna sit here and go to the Spanish club? Never, because
unless there's like something going on.
Unless a family member's having something and I have to go, but other than that, I would probably never go. So,
well, you probably want to go to any kind of club.
Well, no, I know.
I mean,
I know. But I'm just saying, I'm just trying to be an example. Like, I'm not really even looking. That's not even on my radar to like consider. Like, oh, let me go back. Like, I really have no interest in what they have to offer. Only because I'm already familiar.
Would you want to try something else? Not from your culture, not black, something else. If you had, would you want to? And what would it be?
I think this is a trick question.
Maybe.
It feels like if I answer this incorrectly, I may have a next podcast talking about whatever I'm about to say here. As far as what I'm interested in and as far as my curiosity is concerned, I think as long as they're female and biological females.
Had to give an answer.
Well, no. I'm about to give you. As long as they're biological females, and they're dark skinned, in my head, I pretty much know.
But have you ever thought about any other race or being with another?
Right. So, one thing that turns me on about interracial relationship is language. So how a female talks. Now, there's a subset of that of aggression. Like how much aggression is.
I feel like you're skating around.
I'm not skating. I'm giving you.
The question is very direct.
I give you a long-winded conversation.
The question is.
Okay, so I have never dated a Jamaican woman. I've never dated a Jamaican woman. Mm-hmm. I've dated a Haitian woman. I've dated a Trinidadian woman. I've dated a Guyanese woman. But I've never dated a Jamaican woman. So if I had to choose, I would probably be the direction because I've never, experienced that culture or I've never experienced that style.
I mean, outside of black.
Oh, outside of black?
Yeah. I mean, Jamaican, Trinidadians, Guyanese.
To me, they're different, though, because I know the difference.
We're all pretty much the same.
I mean, there's similarities. I mean, I think some people
Caribbean,
might argue against you, though.
We're all pretty much the same.
I mean, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, in that case.
If you're talking about, like, those dance hall, pasa type
I don't know.
females, you ain't
so
ready
maybe
for that
I'll go a
yet.
little southern and I go to, like, Brazil, like a Brazilian woman. So, because a Brazilian woman, they're not Spanish. They're a little bit like Spanish, but they're
so Spanish.
They're different. They're Dutch. It's a Dutch culture.
Portuguese.
I'm sorry, Dutch. I'm crazy.
Or whatever.
They're
I'm not giving a history lesson here. I don't know.
I think they're Portuguese. I'm pretty sure they're Portuguese.
Okay.
So it's like Spanish culture plus
it's like you're playing it safe. You know what I'm saying? It's like the combination of black and Spanish.
Yeah.
So nothing outside of those two you would ever want to try.
Oh, like what you talking about? Like Arabian?
Anything else? If you had to choose another,
my world is so small that I don't know anything. So I guess
you probably already gave your answer. Then you said Jamaican. That was the answer.
I mean, because that's all I know. I live in Brooklyn, New York. Like all I know is like West Indian cultures.
Okay, in Brooklyn, New York, it's so
very diverse. But I've only been in like 3 neighborhoods, and like I don't.
You see, even from your time. Where you work, where you went to school, you've seen all kinds of cultures. So just from that,
right?
And I know you said Jamaican, but
I've never seen
nothing outside of.
So we have to. So I'm assuming you're meaning like, if I or like African, like Nigerian.
No, those are all like what ethnicity.
So what? I don't understand the question then, because you're asking me, what is it a different?
Okay,
like,
so. other than being with the black women you've been with,
Okay.
is there any other race you've ever had any interest in? You said Jamaican,
Oh,
which is
okay.
not a race.
So
but
I guess I misunderstood. So in that case, I wouldn't mind dating a white woman. I have never dated a white woman. I've never been with a white woman.
I thought you were gonna say Asian because I think you had mentioned that before. Asian.
Well, I guess I mean they're kind of similar because of some of the skin tones.
They're
I mean,
not really.
I mean,
See,
as far
you're
as
just
skin
looking
tones,
at the skin. I'm talking
I'm
about
looking at the skin
culture.
tone.
I'm talking about everything.
All right, if I had a top five, it have
No
a
top five. Just the next one. What would it be?
Probably Asian in that case.
Asian.
I mean, it'd be pretty hard because I don't know any Asians. I don't know any like.
I mean, you like Chinese food, so yeah, you pretty
That's
much know.
so racist. That is so wrong. In so
No,
many ways.
I mean, like you
I like Chinese food,
so that's why
what?
you would choose
That-
a Chinese person or Asian.
I hope people don't get mad at you at that. But
Why? It wasn't meant to be racist. I'm just saying you like Chinese food. So you talk about, you didn't even let me finish. When
Chinese food is not Asian
it's
food.
not a representation of
It's not Asian. It's not
all
Asian food, though.
of the cultures in Asia. No, it's not.
If you would have said sushi, maybe
No,
that would
but
have been a little better.
There's a lot of influence. If you eat Chinese food, there's a lot of influences, Asian culture across the board. So you would fit in perfectly.
I don't think that you
period.
can go to Japan and find.
You can get Japanese food. They're pretty.
I don't know. Maybe
pretty
hopefully.
similar.
It's like saying spaghetti and stuff like that. A lot of that food is not even in Italy. It's like
But it's even like with our Caribbean food. Like there's Jamaican food, there's Haitian food, there's Guyanese food, but they all have the basic influence, right? We all eat curry chicken. We all eat stewed chicken. You know what I mean? It's like similar. We have different ways in which we prepare it, but
right.
fried rice is fried rice. You might have it.
I guess. All right. So just to bring it back, if I had to choose, it would probably be Asian.
Okay.
And if that's not available, I'll probably go white because that's like the other side of the spectrum.
I mean, I guess when you look at it, ain't much left, but Asian, white, black. What else do you have?
I mean, there's yellow. Not yellow as far as.
Lord, now who?
No, I mean like darker or lighter like
Did
tones.
you say yellow?
Yeah, like yellow in a sense of like high yellow cultures.
What? Who are the who are the high yellow cultures? I'm so confused right now.
I'm thinking like Middle Eastern. I'm thinking that like that. So they're not
yellow.
black. They're not white. They're kind of like
They're not yellow.
So what did you consider them?
Not yellow. They're still Asian. They're still considered Asian too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like those skin tones where you would see like, okay, that's kind of like
Indian.
Yeah. It's kind of like that. And I know there's the racial slur of like yellow people or Asian people. I'm like, I'm thinking literally this color skin tone of like,
Well, they're not yellow.
lighter but a darker tone of cultures. And I associate that kind of like with Arabs and those cultures. But yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything.
You didn't ask me what I would want next.
Okay, so I'm afraid to know what you would want next. Jesus. What would you want other than
two.
Spanish? Oh,
I have
Lord. Two.
two.
You only pick one. You only make me pick one.
You pick Jamaican, yellow, gray, everything. My next one would I would want to be an Italian guy,
So white?
white Italian. It's not like there's any other type of
So
Italian.
you said a Jamaican. You told me that Jamaican is a race, not a skin tone. Like you told me to pick specific skin tone.
I said pick a race.
Okay.
Next race. So white Italian. I'm being specific.
Okay.
What I would want.
You put some thought into this apparently.
Yeah. Or
what is it about a white Italian man that you like?
Well, not to be, people are gonna start with the whole, oh my god, she's this and that.
I think we way past that. I said yellow in this podcast.
But no, but then people tend to like take it to the next side, like self-hate and what about black and blah blah. Anyway, Italian because
I'm kind of black.
yeah, whatever. Italian because I don't know.
But what you like about them? You say you put thought into it.
They just have something.
It's a swagger.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of the swag. It's like it's not too far off from our culture, you know. But then it's a different culture, right. So you know.
What are your
but
expectations?
I've only really seen the Brooklyn Italians. So
what are your expectations from a Brooklyn Italian man?
It's no expectation. I don't know. It's just something different.
They're gonna have a pink nose.
Wow. No. And then the other one was gonna be white UK, some white guy from UK,
like British,
like
Idris Elba and
white guy. I like. Idris.
I'm talking about Idris Elba and what's that show? Luther, yeah, with the British accents.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. So, but this by all means does not mean it's not indicative of self-hate or hating the black culture, putting the black culture down. No, everyone has a preference, and that's what I think I would want to try.
Well, you've dated black males. You've dated black males. You've slept with black males. So it's not like, you know, it's not like you've never tried that spectrum of things. And I think it's important for everyone to know, is like, you don't know what you like until you try it. And you have to make a decision upon yourself. Like, okay, what works for you?
And
what doesn't work for you? It could have just been, honestly, the people that I dated, the people that I talked to. It was just all the same kind of thing. It's in no way any kind of representation of the black culture or black men. There are a lot of nice black men out there who are hot, sexy, whatever. I haven't come across any that I'd be like, oh yeah, so interested. Because I've been here all this time. It's like no room to even look sideways. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's about it. So I think we covered everything. Is there any last thoughts you want to add? You know, try to date interracial. If you can, try something different, try something new. You know, what do you got to lose? I'm always of the mindset of opposites attract. Yeah. So definitely. Oftentimes, the more you don't have in common with a person, that's the things that you can then actually have something to talk about. You may most likely find that in an interracial relationship. So why not? Try a different culture. Try different foods. So we've come to the end of the podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. We'll definitely have a next episode next week. Tune in. Check out our website for any dates, events that we may do. More information coming up. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Peace out.